Vatican City, November 4, 2025, 8:15 a.m. The bells of St. Peter's Basilica rang through the cold Roman air, their echoes mingling with murmurs from the growing crowd in St. Peter's Square. Pilgrims and journalists had gathered beneath the gray sky, waiting for the official release of a new doctrinal document. The banners in Latin hung quietly between the colonnades. Mater Populi Fidelis, the mother of the faithful people of God. Inside the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIV stood by the window of his private study. His hands were clasped behind his back, rosary beads dangling between his fingers. Across the square, he could see the press tents already buzzing, cameras aimed at the bronze doors of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. The world was waiting for an answer, one that had been whispered in seminaries, debated in universities, and fought over in private corridors of the Vatican for more than a century. The question was simple, yet dangerous. Was the Virgin Mary Co-Redemptrix? For years, devotion to Mary had carried that title in private prayers and unofficial devotions. The belief that she, by standing at the foot of the cross, had shared in Christ's suffering and thus cooperated in humanity's redemption. But the theological implications were sharp-edged. To some, it honored her faith and obedience. To others, it blurred the central truth of Christianity, that Christ alone is Redeemer. Now, after months of internal debate and revisions, the Vatican was about to settle the question. In another wing of the palace, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, prefect of the dicastery, reviewed his final notes before the press conference. He was a man used to controversy, a writer of poetry and theology in equal measure, a close confidant of Pope Leo, and the architect of this new document. His voice, calm and deliberate, had become the steady rhythm of the modern Vatican, compassionate yet unyielding when it came to doctrine. On his desk lay the final text, bearing the papal seal. The use of the title Co-Redemptrix is not appropriate, for it risks obscuring the unique and unrepeatable role of Jesus Christ, the sole Redeemer of humanity. Those words had been weighed like gold dust. Each syllable had passed through committees, translators, and prayerful silence. And now, at last, it would leave the marble halls and echo across the world. Outside, Sister Lucia Moretti, a young theologian and researcher from the Pontifical University, waited among the crowd. She held a worn prayer card of Our Lady of Sorrows, her thumb tracing the printed words, Mater Dolorosa, ora pro nobis. For Lucia, the idea that Mary had shared in Christ's suffering was not an attempt to rival him. It was a reflection of love, of the mother who did not turn away from the cross. Yet even she understood the danger of misunderstanding. She had read too many online arguments, too many self-proclaimed prophets twisting Marian devotion into something nearly divine. Still, her heart ached at the thought of seeing that beloved title, Co-Redemptrix, officially struck down. The heavy doors of the Jesuit Curia opened. Dozens of cameras flashed. Fernandez appeared, flanked by aides, carrying the document. The announcement began. Mater Populi Fidelis, the cardinal said, adjusting his glasses, seeks to clarify and purify the language of Marian devotion, so that the faithful may not be confused regarding the one and only Redeemer. He paused, glancing at the journalists in the front row. When an expression demands constant correction to prevent misunderstanding, he continued, it ceases to be useful. The expression Co-Redemptrix does not elevate Mary's dignity. It risks diminishing Christ's. A ripple spread through the room. Some nodded in agreement. Others, visibly shaken, exchanged glances. One elderly Italian man in the audience, Gian Filippo Rossi, a member of a Marian study group, suddenly stood and raised his voice. "This is not the will of God," he shouted. "For centuries the Church has honored her as Co-Redemptrix. You are erasing the truth of the ages." Security moved quickly, but Cardinal Fernandez lifted a hand. "Please," he said softly, "let him speak." The man trembled, tears in his eyes. "You must listen to the laity. The people love their mother. You cannot silence her titles." Fernandez replied, his voice still calm, but edged with sadness. "We are not silencing Mary. We are protecting her from being misunderstood. She is the mother who stood at the cross, not equal to her son, but faithful to him until the end." The room fell silent again. Cameras clicked. The headline was already forming in every journalist's mind. Vatican declares, "Christ alone is Redeemer." As the conference ended, the words spread like fire. Within hours, Catholic and Protestant news outlets alike were quoting the same passage. Social media erupted, some celebrating the return to scriptural purity, others mourning what they saw as a retreat from tradition. In the square, Sister Lucia knelt quietly beneath the towering basilica. She looked up at the statue of Mary above the colonnade, serene, hands open, face lifted toward heaven. The afternoon sun had broken through the clouds, casting golden light across her marble features. "Mother," Lucia whispered, "they may change the words, but not our love." Far above, in the Apostolic Palace, Pope Leo XIV remained by his window, the rosary still in his hand. He had approved the document after long prayer and sleepless nights. He believed the Church needed clarity, not confusion, truth, not sentiment. Yet as he watched the sunlight dance on the square below, he murmured to himself a verse he had read that morning. "There is one God, and one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus." 1 Timothy 2:5. He closed his eyes. The bells began to toll again. History had turned a page. The title Co-Redemptrix was no more. But the silence that followed, the silence of faith, of mystery, of a mother at the cross, remained. And somewhere deep within the Vatican walls, the debate about Mary's role in redemption did not end. It merely changed its shape, waiting for another dawn. Within 48 hours of the Vatican's declaration, the world of faith was split in two. Across continents, believers gathered in front of cathedrals and small parish chapels, praying under the rain and candlelight. In Manila, thousands marched with blue banners that read, "Mother Co-Redeemer, pray for us." In Mexico City, a group of women knelt before the Basilica of Guadalupe, whispering the rosary through tears. Cameras flashed, drones hovered above the crowds, and every headline carried the same words: Pope Leo XIV denies the Co-Redemptrix title. Anger burned through the church like wildfire. Bishops argued live on television. One priest in Sao Paulo ripped a copy of the papal document during Mass, shouting that the Virgin had been betrayed. In Poland, seminarians sang hymns in protest, holding candles that dripped like tears. Commentators accused the Pope of Protestantizing the faith, while others hailed him as the defender of pure doctrine. Inside the Vatican walls, tension grew heavier each hour. Pope Leo XIV refused interviews and spent most of his time in prayer, though his aides saw the fatigue in his eyes. Reports from every corner of the world arrived on his desk, some filled with outrage, others with fear. At dawn, he read one from the Philippines about a statue of the Virgin that had begun to weep during the announcement broadcast. The report was brief, cautious, but it ended with a single sentence: "The liquid collected from the statue smells of roses." He set the paper aside and murmured, "They think I silenced her, but perhaps she was never meant to speak." His secretary, confused, asked if he should issue a clarification. The Pope only shook his head. "No, Words will not heal this. Truth will. That afternoon, Archbishop Rinaldi from the Vatican archives arrived at the papal residence with a sealed envelope in his hand. The paper was old, its edges brown with time, and the red wax bore the crest of Cardinal Alfredo Ottaviani, a name the Church had not spoken aloud in decades. Rinaldi's voice was calm but urgent. "We found this locked inside the private archive of Pope Pius XII. It concerns the same question, the Co-Redemptrix title." Leo XIV broke the seal slowly, unfolding a single page written in fading ink. The words trembled under his fingertips.
To my successors. The lady appeared to me on the night of March 25, 1951, in the chapel of San Clemente. She said, "Do not call me co-redeemer, for my Son alone bore the weight of salvation. Yet remember this, when the Church forgets me, the world will forget mercy. A.O." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Outside, thunder rolled faintly over the city. The Pope lifted his eyes toward the window where Rome's skyline glowed in the pale light. "If this is true," he whispered, "then what we call her, or refuse to call her, may decide more than doctrine." That night, social media erupted again. Videos surfaced from South America showing statues crying blood. In Guadalajara, witnesses claimed a faint heartbeat could be heard from within an old image of the Virgin. In Poland, a blue light appeared above a Marian shrine, caught by security cameras and shared millions of times before dawn. Scientists called them coincidences. Believers called them signs. In a small convent near Manila, a young nun named Sister Althea recorded herself trembling before a simple altar. Behind her, the Virgin's face glistened under candlelight. "She's weeping," Althea said in Tagalog, her voice breaking. "Since last night, we have collected drops that smell like roses. We don't understand, but we feel sorrow." The video reached 10 million views in less than a day. Inside the Apostolic Palace, the Pope sat alone before a small marble statue of the Virgin. The candle beside him flickered weakly. He had not spoken in hours, yet his heart felt louder than the thunder outside. He remembered the letter, the words, "When the Church forgets me, the world will forget mercy." He leaned forward, whispering, "Mother, if this silence is your will, let me bear it. But if the world has forgotten mercy, show us how to remember." At that moment, a faint sound broke the stillness. A single drop of water hit the marble altar. Then another. The Pope's breath caught as he saw it. Moisture forming at the corner of the statue's left eye, gliding slowly down the smooth white cheek. He reached out, touching it gently. The drop was warm. He fell to his knees, trembling. "Mother," he whispered, "what do you want from me?" Outside, in the square below, thousands of pilgrims stood in the rain, praying in unison. Some claimed they saw a light flicker from the papal chapel's window, soft, golden, and shaped like a tear. Others said they felt the air tremble, as if heaven itself were holding its breath. When the Pope finally rose, dawn was breaking over Rome. The letter from 1951 lay open on the altar beside the weeping statue. Its last line seemed to shimmer faintly in the morning light, as though rewritten by unseen hands. When the Church forgets mercy, heaven will remind her. And somewhere deep within the Vatican's underground archives, a motion sensor flickered to life. A shadow moved past the shelves, pausing before an unmarked steel door that had not been opened for 70 years. Vatican City, November 8, 2025. 4 days later. The Vatican had not slept. For nights, the lights of the apostolic palace burned until dawn, and the corridors of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith echoed with hurried footsteps and muffled arguments. Outside, the world spoke in tongues, half in anger, half in awe, of statues that wept, of lights above Marian shrines, of tears that smelled of roses. Inside the walls, fear had settled like dust. A closed-door meeting of the Curia had been called in the Jesuit Curia Hall, a high-ceilinged chamber where portraits of past theologians stared down like silent judges. Every seat was taken, bishops, scholars, and cardinals in crimson robes. At the center table sat Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, his expression calm but pale, beside the empty chair reserved for the Pope, who had not yet arrived. A low murmur spread through the room, whispers of the miracle, of rumors that the Pope himself had witnessed tears upon the marble face of the Virgin. No one dared to confirm it aloud. Fernandez stood. "The world is on fire," he began, "and we are accused of striking the match. But I ask you, should faith depend on signs or on truth?" A voice interrupted, old, firm, and edged with weariness. It was Monsignor Rinaldi, the archivist. "Truth without compassion is not truth, Eminence. The people do not see theology. They see their mother weeping." A ripple of agreement ran through the assembly. Fernandez adjusted his glasses, meeting Rinaldi's gaze. "Then we must discern whether she weeps for our error or for our fear." Before more could be said, the doors opened. Pope Leo XIV entered slowly, accompanied by Father Anselmo, his young aide. The room rose in silence. The Pope's face was drawn and pale. The weight of sleepless nights hung on him like a cloak. He carried a small envelope in his hand, the letter from 1951. He spoke quietly. "My brothers, what we decide here will echo for generations. We are not debating poetry. We are debating the heart of redemption itself." He placed the letter on the table. "This was found in the archives of Pius XII. It records a vision, perhaps private, perhaps divine. It warns, when the Church forgets me, the world will forget mercy." Gasps broke the room's stillness. Fernandez bowed his head. "Holy Father, that letter was never authenticated. It cannot form the basis of doctrine." "I know," Leo replied softly. "And yet, what if it is not doctrine we are losing, but devotion?" The room fell silent again. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, the same thunder that had followed the Vatican's first decree. At the far end of the table, a journalist turned theologian raised his voice. "Holy Father, people have seen signs, lights, tears, even blood. Are these not heaven's response to our decision?" Fernandez interjected sharply. "Heaven does not tweet, Father. We cannot build faith on viral visions."
Laughter, uneasy and brief, cut the tension, then died quickly. Monsignor Rinaldi leaned forward. "Your Holiness, perhaps the truth lies not in denying the title, nor affirming it, but in rediscovering what it meant before it became a slogan. Co-Redemptrix once spoke of the mystery of love, not equality, but participation." The Pope listened, fingers tracing the beads in his pocket. "Participation," he repeated quietly, "to share the cross without claiming it." Then, unexpectedly, Sister Lucia Moretti entered the chamber, escorted by Anselmo. She carried a worn book, bound in leather, its Latin title faded, Acta Sanctae Maria, 1914. "Holy Father," she said, her voice trembling but clear, "this was hidden in the restricted section of the Gregorian library. Inside, there is a handwritten note by Pope Pius X himself." She opened the book. A single passage was underlined in red ink. "As Eve shared in the fall, so Mary shared in redemption,
not as equal, but as the new woman through whom grace re-entered the world. Gasps again. The document was genuine. Lucia had verified the handwriting with the archives. Fernande's voice hardened. Theologomenon, a pious opinion, not magisterial teaching. It proves devotion, not doctrine. Lucia met his gaze. But if devotion reveals the heart of the people, should it not reveal something of heaven too? The Pope rose slowly. Enough. His voice was gentle, but it silenced the room. Perhaps heaven is not asking us to decide who is right, but to remember what we have forgotten. Mercy, as the letter said. The tears, the signs, even the anger, all of it calls us back to compassion. He turned toward the crucifix at the far wall. If Mary stood beneath the cross, then every mother who suffers stands there too. That is the meaning of Co-Redemptrix, not a title of power, but of shared pain. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Rinaldi whispered, "Then perhaps, Holy Father, it is not her title we must defend, but her example." Leo XIV nodded slowly. Yes, and to defend her example, we must face our own. He looked to Lucia. You will continue your research, child. Whatever lies in those archives, find it. For if the world has forgotten mercy, perhaps the answer has been waiting there all along. Lucia bowed. Yes, Holy Father. The Pope turned to the assembly. We will not revoke the decree, but neither will we silence the question. The matter of the Co-Redemptrix is not closed. It will be studied in light, not secrecy. The session ended. Cardinals filed out in uneasy silence, some relieved, others unsettled. Outside, a cold wind swept across St. Peter's Square. From the window of his study, Pope Leo XIV watched the pilgrims still praying below. He whispered, "The debate of faith is never won, it is only lived." Far beneath the Apostolic Palace, in the Vatican's lower archives, Sister Lucia and Father Anselmo descended a spiral staircase later that night. The air was heavy with dust and the smell of old parchment. They followed the faint hum of the motion sensors that had flickered days before. At the end of the corridor, they found it, the unmarked steel door. It bore no inscription, only the faint outline of a Marian monogram, M intertwined with a cross. Lucia turned to Anselmo. "Whatever is behind this," she whispered, "it's been waiting 70 years. Anselmo nodded, reaching for the switch beside the door. A single red light blinked on. Somewhere inside, metal gears began to move. And the archives of heaven, or hell, slowly awakened. The Vatican sleeps lightly. Beyond the marble corridors and silent fountains, the lower archives hum with a sound that does not belong to the modern world. The slow grinding of an ancient lock turning for the first time in 70 years. Sister Lucia Moretti and Father Anselmo stood before the unmarked steel door, the Marian monogram gleaming faintly under their flashlights. Dust drifted in the air like gray snow. On the wall beside them, faded writing in Latin read, "Non omnis veritas revelanda est." Not every truth is meant to be revealed. Lucia crossed herself, whispering, "Then may heaven forgive us if we open what should have stayed closed." Anselmo inserted the access key, a relic code provided secretly by Monsignor Rinaldi, who had vanished 2 days earlier. The lock clicked. The steel door shuttered open. Cold air rushed out, sharp, dry, smelling faintly of myrrh and ink. Inside was a small chamber lined with lead-lined shelves. In the center stood a glass case, sealed and wrapped with a wax ribbon bearing the papal insignia of Pius XI. On the ribbon was written,
Archivum Mariae, Lux Secunda Redemptionis, the Archive of Mary, the Second Light of Redemption. Lucia whispered the words aloud. The Second Light, the same phrase mentioned in the missing draft of Mater Populi Fidelis. Anselmo nodded. This must be it, the original text, before it was changed. They broke the seal and opened the case. Inside lay a single folder of aged parchment. The ink had faded to brown, but the handwriting was unmistakably papal. On the cover, Draft 4, Mater Populi Fidelis, 1939. Lucia unfolded the first page. It read, Mary cooperated in the redemption not as a mere witness, but as one chosen before the dawn of creation, the first echo of the Word made flesh. She gasped. This line, it was erased from the final version. Anselmo shone the light over the margin. There, faintly, was a note written in another hand, smaller, rougher. Too dangerous. It elevates the woman to the level of the Word. The signature beneath, A. Ottaviani. Lucia's heart pounded. He removed it deliberately. This isn't theology, it's suppression. They turned another page. A sketch was attached, a drawing of two intersecting rays of light, one labeled Redemptio, redemption, the other Compassio, compassion. Where they met, a single word, Maria. Beneath the sketch was a strange annotation in Latin. The second light will appear when the world denies the first. Anselmo frowned. The first light, Christ. Lucia whispered, then the second must be Mary, he finished. Thunder rumbled faintly above them, as if answering. They continued reading, a final paragraph written in trembling ink. When mankind forgets mercy, the mother shall bear again the pain of her son, not in body, but in tears, to remind the Church that compassion is the other face of truth. The same words from the mysterious 1951 letter.
Lucia stared at the text, realization dawning. It wasn't a separate vision. The letter quoted this draft. The prophecy began here. Suddenly, a faint hum filled the room. The temperature dropped. The lights flickered. From the far corner, an old intercom crackled to life, though the system had been disconnected decades ago. A woman's voice, soft and distant, echoed through the static. Do not fear the light that returns. It does not come to judge, but to remind. Lucia froze. Did you hear? Anselmo nodded, pale. That voice. He turned toward the wall where the sound had come from. Behind the shelving, faint blue light seeped through the cracks. They moved closer, pushing aside a cabinet. Hidden there was a mosaic, centuries old, half covered in dust. It depicted the Virgin at the cross, her eyes lifted to heaven, but with an unfamiliar detail. Beneath her feet, a second cruciform shadow glowed faintly in gold tesserae. Lucia whispered, "The second light." As they stared, the gold shimmered faintly, and for an instant the tears on Mary's mosaic eyes seemed to glisten. The air smelled of roses. Then, silence. Anselmo crossed himself. If this is real, Lucia, it changes everything. The Church will have to face what it buried. She replied softly, or what heaven preserved. The next morning, Apostolic Palace. Pope Leo XIV awoke before dawn. His rosary lay on the nightstand, glinting in the candlelight. He had dreamt of water, rivers flowing backward, washing over Rome, carrying voices that whispered in Latin and in silence alike. When he entered his study, he found a sealed envelope on his desk. No name, only one line on the front, written in delicate handwriting. Lux secunda est revelata. The second light has been revealed. Inside were photographs taken hours earlier by the security system in the lower archives. Lucia and Anselmo standing before the glowing mosaic, faces illuminated by blue light. The Pope sat down heavily, trembling. So it begins. He opened his breviary to a verse he had marked weeks ago. And there appeared a great sign in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun. Revelation 12:1. He looked toward the statue of Mary in his chamber, serene, silent, no longer weeping. For the first time in days, he smiled faintly. Perhaps heaven has spoken, he whispered, not through words, but through remembrance. Outside, dawn broke over St. Peter's Square, and from within the basilica, a soft bell rang 7 times, though no one had pulled the rope. The morning broke with thunder. Dark clouds gathered over Rome, and rain swept across the cobblestones of St. Peter's Square. Pilgrims still knelt under umbrellas, murmuring the rosary, as lightning flashed above the dome. They prayed not only for mercy, but for understanding. Inside the apostolic palace, the walls themselves seemed to tighten. A consistory had been summoned, an emergency council of the highest-ranking cardinals. The corridors buzzed with whispers. The second light, the forbidden archive, the Pope knows. In the chamber of the apostolic library, the tension was palpable. Rows of crimson-clad prelates sat in semicircle around the central table. At the head sat Pope Leo XIV, pale and silent, his eyes shadowed by exhaustion. To his right, Cardinal Fernandez, his longtime friend, the architect of Mater Populi Fidelis. To his left, Cardinal Bresciani, an old lion of the Curia, sharp-eyed and unyielding. And near the corner, unnoticed by most, Father Anselmo and Sister Lucia Moretti waited, the two who had found what no one was meant to see. A papal aide read the charges: unauthorized entry into sealed archives, removal of classified materials, violation of the pontifical secret. Lucia bowed her head. Anselmo's hands were trembling. Then Fernandez stood. His voice was calm, but his words fell like stones. Holiness, the Church cannot govern by apparition. These reports of glowing mosaics, voices, tears, they risk turning the Vatican into a shrine of hysteria. He turned toward Lucia. This young sister may have been misled by zeal, but zeal is not truth. Lucia raised her eyes. Eminence, truth is not afraid of light. You call it zeal, I call it obedience, not to men, but to what was revealed. A murmur rose. Several cardinals exchanged uneasy glances. Bresciani leaned forward. We have seen this before. Fatima, Garabandal, Medjugorje. Every century, the Church is tempted to replace revelation with emotion. Shall we let tears rewrite theology? Fernandez nodded slightly. We must protect doctrine from distortion. If we surrender to symbols, the papacy itself loses meaning. At that, Leo XIV finally spoke, his voice soft but heavy with authority. Meaning, eminences, does not come from control. It comes from truth, and truth sometimes weeps. Silence. The Pope reached into his robes and placed 2 photographs on the table, security stills from the archive. Lucia and Anselmo before the glowing mosaic. These are not fables, he said. They are facts. The cameras recorded what our eyes have denied. He turned toward Fernandez. You are my friend, Victor. You taught me to see theology as poetry. Tell me, if this were truly from heaven, would we still call it hysteria? Fernandez's voice trembled for the first time. Holiness, I fear not heaven, but the men who will use heaven for power. Leo's gaze hardened. Then you fear yourself. The room erupted, voices overlapping, Latin phrases flying across the table like sparks. blasphemia, superstitio, miraculum verum. The air thickened with incense and fury. Lucia clutched her rosary, whispering, "Mother of mercy, let not pride destroy what compassion has revealed." Then, a sudden blackout. The chandeliers flickered and died. The microphones cut. In the darkness, the storm outside roared. A beam of lightning illuminated the stained glass window above them, the image of Mary beneath the cross. For a heartbeat, the glass glowed blue, the same hue seen in the hidden archive. Gasps filled the chamber. Then a sound, not thunder, but bells. The bells of St. Peter's rang 12 times, though it was only 11. When the power returned, the mosaic photographs were gone from the table. Leo rose slowly, his expression unreadable. "It seems heaven has taken back what it lent us." He looked at Lucia. "Go, child, continue your search. The truth will not hide forever." As she and Anselmo left the room, Fernandez spoke bitterly. "Holiness, the Curia will not accept this ambiguity. They are calling for your resignation." Leo paused at the door. "Then let them call. A shepherd does not flee because the wolves grow loud." He stepped into the corridor, his white cassock fluttering like a ghost in the draught. Later that night, Papal Chapel. The Pope knelt before the statue of the Virgin. The candlelight trembled, reflecting in the polished marble like tears. He spoke softly. "They are tearing each other apart, Mother. Faith against faith. Doctrine against mercy. Tell me, what must I do?" A voice, almost inaudible, rose in his heart. "Do what you have always done. Stand at the cross." He looked up. For a moment, the statue seemed alive, her gaze tender, her hands open. And then he saw it, the faint crack at her foot, glowing again with that mysterious blue light. He bowed his head. "Then I will stand." Outside, the rain had ceased, but in the square, thousands of candles flickered in the hands of pilgrims, and their chant rose into the night. "Ave Maria, Co-Redemptrix nostra, ora pro nobis." Hail Mary, our co-redeemer, pray for us. Above them, lightning forked one last time across the sky, illuminating the dome of St. Peter's in pure white fire. And within the Vatican, as the echoes faded, a single page slid from an unseen file in the archives below. It bore one sentence, written in the hand of John Paul II. "If the world forgets mercy, it is not heaven that will be silent, but man."
Jerusalem, December 8th, 2025. Feast of the Immaculate Conception. The dawn over Jerusalem was unlike any other. From the Mount of Olives to the Dome of the Rock, the horizon shimmered with a faint golden haze. Pilgrims awoke to silence, birds motionless on branches, the air thick with expectation. At 6:12 a.m., the first sign appeared. Above the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, sunlight refracted into an immense vertical beam, a column of light piercing the sky. It held for 12 full minutes, unmoving, visible from space. Satellites captured it, news agencies streamed it, and across the world millions whispered, "It has begun." 1. The world watches. Within hours, reports flooded in. In Mexico, the tilma of Guadalupe glowed with living light. The Virgin's eyes reflected shapes moving like flames. In Poland, the Black Madonna's scars began to fade. In Manila, the weeping statue turned its gaze upward, and the scent of roses spread through the streets like breath. In Nigeria, a priest streaming Mass collapsed in tears when a host in his hand began to radiate pale blue light.
The Vatican press office struggled to contain the chaos. Every network replayed the same headline. The sign appears. Is heaven speaking? 2. Inside the Vatican crisis room. Pope Leo XIV sat before a wall of monitors, each showing live feeds, miracles, riots, vigils. His aides murmured prayers and panic in equal measure. Cardinal Fernandez stood beside him, face pale, lips tight. "Holiness," he said, "if we confirm this as supernatural, we lose control of interpretation. If we deny it, we become enemies of heaven." Leo turned to him quietly. "Then perhaps heaven no longer needs our permission." Across the table, Sister Lucia placed a folder before the Pope. Inside, a single page from the sealed archive, recovered after the blackout. It was the continuation of the Ottaviani letter, written in a trembling hand. "When the world forgets mercy, the sky will remember. When the Church forgets the Mother will remember the world." Lucia's voice shook. "Holy Father, it's dated March 25, 1951, but the ink is fresh." The room fell silent. 3. The Pilgrim's March. In Rome, a procession began spontaneously. Thousands, nuns, priests, atheists, mothers, soldiers, walked barefoot through the rain towards St. Peter's Square, carrying nothing but candles and icons. No one led them, no one spoke. The bells rang without being touched, echoing from every basilica in the city. A journalist whispered into his microphone, trembling, "It's as if the whole world is breathing the same prayer." 4. The Vatican rooftop. That night, lightning rolled over the dome, and the Pope ascended the steps alone. The wind howled through the scaffolding. At the top, he looked over the city, a sea of light below, the people still kneeling, their candles forming a cross that stretched across the entire square. Lucia joined him, soaked in rain. "Holy Father," she said, "they're asking what this means. The world is waiting for your word." Leo XIV's eyes glistened. "My word?" He looked to the heavens. "No, they must hear hers." He lifted the ancient parchment and read aloud, his voice carried by the wind. She said, "When the Church forgets mercy, heaven will remind her. When the world forgets compassion, the Mother will weep again, not in statues, but in souls." Lightning struck the cross atop the dome, not in destruction, but in brilliance. For an instant, everything turned white. When the light faded, the sky above Rome shimmered with an image, faint yet unmistakable. A woman robed in stars, standing upon the world, her hands open in sorrow and light. Every camera in the world captured it. Every feed went silent. Every nation paused. 5. The aftermath. In hospitals, dying patients awoke and whispered prayers they'd forgotten. Prisoners wept in silence. Scientists argued live on air. Radiation? Optics? Hallucination? But their voices cracked. And in the Apostolic Palace, Leo XIV knelt again before the weeping statue. The drops now fell not as tears, but as dew, fragrant and luminous. He whispered, "Mother, they have seen you, but what comes next?" The statue's lips did not move, yet the words came to his heart like breath. Now they must choose. The Pope raised his eyes, not in triumph, but in fear. Because far below, deep beneath the Vatican, the steel door that had long remained sealed began to vibrate, slowly, rhythmically, as though something within were stirring, awakened by the light. December 2025. Months had passed since the Vatican quietly released the addendum to Mater Populi Fidelis. Over St. Peter's Square, the winter light was pale and cold. The crowds were smaller now, yet their prayers seemed heavier, more thoughtful. The document had ended with a single line. She stood beside the Redeemer, not as equal, but as one chosen to share his suffering for the salvation of all. That single sentence spread through the world faster than any papal decree in recent years. Traditionalists called it a silent victory, a whisper that kept alive the heart of Co-Redemptrix. Progressives, led by Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, said it was a gentle correction, honoring Mary's closeness to the cross without dividing the act of redemption. Between the two sides, the Church seemed to breathe again, no longer shouting, but thinking. In the Sistine Chapel, Pope Leo XIV celebrated Mass at dawn. The frescoes glowed faintly in the candlelight as he spoke. Our Lady needs no title to redeem. She asks only that we believe in her Son. His voice carried the weariness of months spent under scrutiny, yet there was peace in it. The faint crack of light that had once appeared at the statue's foot was still visible, though dim. The Vatican refused to call it a miracle. Leo did not argue. He saw it as a quiet sign for those who had eyes to see. After the Mass, Father Anselmo approached and said softly, "You've chosen the harder path, Holy Father, not to end the debate, but to guide hearts." Leo smiled faintly. "Maybe unity does not come from words," he said, "but from silence." Sister Lucia Moretti had spent weeks among the Vatican archives searching for fragments of lost letters and drafts. Now she knew her mission was not to publish discoveries, but to live them. On a small balcony overlooking the square, she watched the faithful praying the Ave Maria in the cold evening air. "Lead me to your Son," she whispered. For her, faith was no longer a theory. It was a surrender. Across the Tiber, John Filippo Rossi sat by his old desk, the city lights flickering through the window. He began writing, "They may deny a title, but they cannot erase her role in redemption." He paused, smiled bitterly, and crossed himself. The fight for definitions had ended, but another war, the one inside the human heart, would never truly cease. Still, in that endless struggle, he felt grace. Night fell over Vatican City. Bells echoed over rooftops as the square glowed under amber lights. The Vatican's public screen displayed a simple message: "No press conference today. The Holy Father invites prayer for unity." Monsignor Rinaldi locked away an old photograph of Pius XI and murmured that truth, like faith, is never destroyed, only hidden until the right time. In the corridor, Father Anselmo paused beneath the painted dome, looking up at the Virgin and her Son. He remembered Leo's words, "We write about the Mother, but perhaps we have never listened to her." And he thought, if she truly is the Mother of God's people, then perhaps holiness begins with learning again to listen like a child. Outside, the December air was still. Pilgrims knelt, rosaries in hand, their breath rising in the cold. Above them, the cross shone faintly against the sky. They no longer cared who was right or wrong. They prayed simply, to the one who had stood at the foot of that cross, not to claim a title, but to share a pain that would save the world. And the bells of St. Peter's kept ringing, soft and slow, across the sleeping city of Rome.